The fleet had never failed. 12 planets. 12 swift, silent conquests. Their scanners read Earth as fractured, chaotic, soft, but they forgot one rule of the galaxy. Never corner a species that taught itself war. The stars held their breath. Silent, eternal, indifferent, they bore witness as the great shadow moved across the curve of Earth. The Vatarak Sovereign, a vessel forged from the bones of dead moons and armed with dark energy spears, floated in absolute silence above a world teeming with unknowing life. Inside its command chamber, the air pulsed with tension. Fleet Commander Sialencor, whose name carried blood owner across 5 systems, gazed down through the transparent tactical dome. Earth rotated beneath them, blue and green and soft. A young world, vulnerable world. A perfect world to conquer. Status? Cylon ordered. Orbital suppression grid in place. Earth's satellite mesh remains unalerted, came the voice of Tactical Subdirector Zel-9. Global defense posture is fragmented. Nuclear delivery systems are independent, not networked. Threat rating, minimal. The fleet commander exhaled slowly, violet vapor curling from the edges of his breathing vents. So, he said, the council was right. Another fractured world barking over borders, ripe for correction. He stepped forward. No planetary shield, no singular AI command, no orbital array, no unity. His tone grew colder. They are divided by language, faith, and greed. Then they'll fall, Zel-9 said with quiet confidence. They all do, Cylon answered. But deep beneath the calm efficiency of the bridge crew, there was an unspoken tension. This wasn't just another conquest. Earth was different. Unmapped anomalies surrounded its electromagnetic field. Its culture web was chaotic, contradictory, violent, but strangely intelligent. There were layers here, irrational layers. Cylon had studied the data for months. Their music spoke of love and death with equal passion. Their stories glorified defiance more than obedience. Their past was a litany of blood, not just survival, but a thirst for war. He didn't fear their weapons. He feared what had shaped them. A squad of 6 elite scouts was chosen, silent, cloaked, and biologically adaptable. They would land undetected on the surface, assess Earth's most powerful urban zones, scan communications, and return within 2 planetary rotations. The scouts were bred for this. Silent infiltrators, coldly logical, unbreakable. They landed without a sound. A suburb outside Washington, D.C., a factory town in northern China, a slum in Lagos, a tech corridor in Silicon Valley, and one deep in the Siberian wilds. The first 2 hours were flawless, then they vanished. One by one, no beacons, no biosignatures, no signals. Only the sound of static and one final transmission screaming, not from the humans, from the scouts. Explain, Cylon said, his voice like a blade drawn halfway. Zel-9's spines quivered. Recovery failed. All contact lost. Autonomous drone retrieval teams dispatched, but interference is spreading. Our systems are being jammed by unknown local signals. Not from a centralized source. Not from... Cylon's jaw flexed. This planet does not operate as a whole, Zel-9 continued. Their species is decentralized in every conceivable way. Data networks, defense systems, even language. Fragmented. Predictive models are unreliable. Cultural countermeasures evolve faster than we can process. Then their weakness is chaos. Or their strength, said another voice, cool, calm, and unsettlingly clear. It was strategist Kale. The ship's first cognitive advisor. She was a hybrid. Part biological, part quantum AI, bred not for combat, but for thought. They are unpredictable, she said, stepping forward. They do not break under pressure. They grow in it. We've studied too little of their nonlinear response systems, their mythologies, social algorithms, psychological paradoxes. You suggest delaying the invasion? Cylon asked darkly. Kel's eyes gleamed. I suggest we study what broke our scouts before we become the next lesson. Captain Maya Callahan stared through a reinforced blast window at the thing on the table. It looked like a man, almost, but the skin was wrong. The bones didn't flex properly. Its eyes. They were invisible until 3 hours ago, said General Ruiz, walking in with the weight of 10 governments behind him. We tracked a microburst on the edge of near-Earth space. Then, this one turned visible, right in the middle of a rural compound. Our dogs found him before our drones did. Maya didn't blink. Was it trying to communicate? It was screaming. She looked back at it. The alien's breathing was ragged now, more a shudder than an inhale. Its organs had begun to rupture from atmospheric incompatibility. They'd tried to stabilize it. It resisted. Violently. Why resist rescue? Maya asked. Ruiz turned, jaw tight. Because it wasn't here to be seen, it was here to watch. Learn. Infiltrate. End. And something about us scared it so badly it tore its own cloak system apart trying to flee. The two officers stood in silence. Outside the chamber, technicians scrubbed the containment area. Biohazard alarms blinked quietly. Maya finally said it aloud. They thought we'd be easy. Kale stood alone in the observation sanctum. Her neural tendrils interfaced with a cascading stream of Earth's cultural data. Video feeds, music, war footage, forums, ancient scrolls, digitized from dusty libraries, all pulsing through her cognitive mesh. Humanity was not what she expected. They were intelligent, yes, but not in the way her people defined intelligence. They were illogical, reactive, emotional. Yet those very traits made them dangerously adaptive. Kale didn't fear their weapons. She feared their will. Across one screen, she saw footage of humans dragging wounded from burning buildings, fighting with sticks and fire against tanks, building empires only to watch them fall, and then start again. They mourned, bled, and kept moving forward. This species doesn't know how to stop, she whispered. Behind her, Cylon entered silently. We've lost 27 stealth drones in the last rotation, he said. Kale disconnected from the stream, destroyed? No, intercepted midair, some by conventional weapons, some by ingenuity. One was caught with netting deployed from a hot air balloon. She raised an eyebrow. They improvised. They always improvise, Cylon muttered, pacing. It's not coordination, it's instinct. Kale nodded, which makes them unpredictable. And unpredictability breeds instability, both tactical and psychological. She turned to face him. We need to reevaluate this invasion. Cylon's jaw clenched. There is no reevaluation. The Council expects occupation within 2 cycles. Our fleet is committed. There is no retreat. Then you should prepare for failure, Kale said quietly. He stared at her, searching for defiance. But he saw no rebellion in her eyes, only cold reason. If we proceed blindly, she added, we may be sowing our own extinction. The Situation Room was silent as the final scout footage played across the screen. The alien's last transmission, flickering, distorted, ending in a scream that reverberated through the room like a pulse of raw fear. Secretary of Defense Roland Summers turned to the Joint Chiefs. What are we looking at? We don't know, sir, said General Haas, ex-Marine, 3 tours in the Middle East. But it bled, and it died scared. What about others? Signals matching the same frequency pinged over major urban and rural zones across the globe, but all contact ceased in under 4 hours. Our best guess is that they were reconnaissance probes. Summers turned to Maya Callahan. Captain, you were the first on the ground. Thoughts? Maya stood, calm and firm. They expected us to panic or not notice them at all. But they underestimated the one thing that always gives us an edge. And what's that? Summers asked. She folded her arms. We survive chaos. We've made an art of it. Every time history tries to break us, we adapt, we overcome. And we hit back harder. The room was quiet, then Haas grinned. She's right. All these bastards walked onto a planet built on war, trauma, and evolution. We're not unified, we're volatile. And they've just kicked the hornet's nest. Rows of soldiers stood motionless, waiting for the launch code. Their armor gleamed under the shifting battle lights, pressurized, shielded, armed with pulse blasters, capable of leveling buildings. Cylon paced the walkway above them. This world believes itself strong, he said, voice amplified across the chamber. It has survived its own wars, disasters, collapses, but it has never faced order, discipline, supremacy. He raised his fist. And by this cycle's end, Earth will kneel to the order of the Vatarak Ascendancy. Cheers erupted, low, guttural, warlike. But in Kel's private chambers, her screens told a different story. She watched footage from something called Afghanistan, where a few hundred fighters held off the world's most advanced military for 2 decades using only terrain, patience, and relentless attrition. She watched the Battle of Stalingrad, the jungles of Vietnam, the fires of Fallujah. Every time someone thought Earth could be taken, the price had been blood. And Earth always bled, yes, but it always survived. Kale recorded a private transmission. 2. Central Directive. Recommendation. Invasion protocol should be suspended immediately. Host species demonstrates abnormal resistance capacity. Projected victory costs now exceed 80% fatality rate. Cultural assimilation, not viable. Request reevaluation. She encrypted the message, but she already knew it would be ignored. For the first time in history, Russian, American, Chinese, and European generals sat together in one secure room. On the screen, a 3D map of Earth, overlaid with descending red markers from orbit. "They're coming," said the NATO director grimly. "And they're not here to negotiate." A Chinese general tapped the screen. "We cannot respond as one. Our systems are incompatible. Our doctrines even more so." "Then we adapt," said Maya, now embedded as Earth's unified first response strategist. "We don't need a global military. We need a global resistance." They looked at her. "The enemy expects cohesion. We give them chaos. Unpredictable counterattacks, traps, deception, guerrilla disruption." "And who leads this resistance?" one commander asked. Maya smiled thinly. "Everyone." The atmospheric shields hissed as the first line of deployment craft prepared for entry. 12 craft, each carrying 40 elite Vatarak enforcers, were calibrated to strike at key targets across the planet. Military hubs, communications nexuses, satellite command points, and early warning systems. Captain Cylon boarded his dropship last, scanned the faces of his squad. Expressionless, resolved, weapons charged, and integrated into their armor. He activated his internal comlink. Primary strike. NORAD command. Breach from sublayer. Seize control before human response is organized. Confirm status. Squadron A. Locked. Squadron B. Locked. Squadron C. Locked. Minimal resistance projected. Proceed, Cylon growled. The hangar lights turned red. A high-frequency tone rang through the chamber. Then the floor opened and Earth took them. The command center was sealed and silent. It already lost satellite uplink from 27 orbital feeds. The sky had turned from a high-altitude silence to a dense electromagnetic storm. They knew something was coming, just not what. Then the lights flickered. A blast rocked the eastern service tunnel. Maya snapped up her rifle and yelled, "Lock internal blast doors," from the perimeter. A second explosion. Closer now. Then footsteps. Not running, marching, rhythmic, heavy, alien. The steel corridor groaned, then buckled, as though reality itself rejected what was coming through. Then they appeared, 8 feet tall, cased in black biometal armor, their faces hidden behind glowing violet visors. Weapons like nothing Earth had seen. But they had made one mistake. They expected no resistance. And Maya was waiting. Vitark soldier Voxu took point, his motion scanner sweeping the tunnel. No heat signatures, no kinetic indicators. The humans had fled, just as expected. "Path clear," he transmitted. He moved forward. That's when the floor gave way. Humans had hollowed it out, crude, uneven, but effective. Spikes of rebar, sharpened steel rods, and broken machinery burst through armor plating like spears. Voxu screamed, a sound unnatural and high-pitched, before his body vanished into the trap below. "Ambush," someone yelled. The lights died. Night vision activated, and revealed nothing but thick smoke and shadows. Then gunfire. Not precision, not organized. Humans emerged from nowhere, covered in soot and blood, firing rifles that barked flame and steel.
Ow.
One leapt from the ceiling, dragging to Vitarik into the abyss with nothing but a steel chain and a scream. Cylon roared into his comms. Reinforced tunnel, suppress and secure, but it was too late. The humans weren't defending. They were hunting. In cities across the world, the sky opened. Meteors, they first thought. But when the impact craters burned out and began moving, panic exploded. New York, Tokyo, Cairo, Johannesburg. Alien landing pods tore into the earth, vomiting soldiers that moved like machines. They struck hard and fast, stunning human forces in the first 15 minutes. But they'd only planned for 15. After that, everything changed. In Texas, a militia of farmers surrounded a pod, using thermite charges from mining equipment to melt through the side. In Ukraine, ex-combatants repurposed Cold War tanks and dragged a disabled dropship into a canyon. In Brazil, villagers lured alien forces into the jungle and let the rainforest swallow them. The invasion had not broken Earth, it had united it, in fire and blood. Kale watched the situation deteriorate. Strike Unit 17 lost. Strike Unit 3, resistance overwhelming. Transmission blackout in Zone 4. Emergency signal from Cylon. Tunnel compromised. Mission abort. This wasn't a battle, it was attrition, and they hadn't planned for attrition. The humans didn't move with one mind, but with 10,000, each one reacted differently, illogically, brutally. Her console pulsed red. Projected success, probability, 42%. Projected fatality ratio, 78%. Council directive, continue operation. Kale stood in silence. They would not retreat. They would burn this world or be broken by it. She closed her eyes. Then we are already dead. The desert night exploded in fire. One of the Vatarak landers, designated Unit 22, had struck remote Earth near an old mining site. Initial scans detected no resistance. But beneath the sand, waiting in silence, were men and women whose ancestors had fought the land, the sea, and each other, and survived everything the world had thrown at them. They called in favors, reopened sealed shafts, rerouted ancient explosives. By the time the alien patrol disembarked, they were surrounded not by soldiers, but by shadows, with ancient eyes and hands steady from generations of violence. An elder, known only as Kura, stood with a sawed-off shotgun in one hand and a hand-rolled cigarette in the other, adorning Enforcer in the eye. "Welcome to hell, mate." And then the mines lit up the sky. High strategist Morel studied the tactical overlays with a growing frown. The battle across Earth's surface was beginning to resemble chaos, not the orchestrated conquest they designed. Cylon's unit had gone dark. The African engagement zones were disintegrating. The Arctic forward base had been overrun by unmanned drone strikes repurposed from mining equipment. "This cannot be accurate," he snapped. But Kel's voice cut through his frustration. "It is." She stepped forward, projecting a new set of data overlays. Psychological patterns, cultural resistance metrics, and predictive chaos modeling based on human behaviors. These are not simple bipeds. They're a culture of fighters raised by extinction events, endless wars, and generational trauma. They were born to lose, and still find ways to win. Morel snarled. "We are superior, no," Kale said. "We're just untested." Captain Maya Callahan reviewed transmissions pouring in from guerrilla units, special forces, civilians, and even defected soldiers from rival nations. The world hadn't come together in centuries, but now, under fire, it did. Maps of alien activity flickered across digital boards. Each red zone was met with a counter-response. "They're strong," said one of her aides. "But they don't understand how humans fight." Maya nodded. "We don't fight to win. We fight to survive." She issued the global broadcast. "To all resistance cells, execute Protocol Emberfall. We are no longer defending. We are hunting." Smoke still drifted through the halls. Bodies, human and alien, lay side by side. Maya moved through the wreckage, rifle lowered, stepping past the broken shell of what had once been a perfect invader. Its armor was pierced by a handmade spear, jagged with steel and copper wire, improvised, brutal, effective. She reached the core room, where Cylon had made his final stand. He wasn't dead. Not yet. He lay beneath collapsed steel, his helmet cracked, eyes dazed. Maya knelt beside him, pressing a blade to his throat. "But you thought we were soft," she said. Cylon coughed, blood mixing with alien plasma. "You were underestimated." "No," she said. "We were misunderstood." She leaned close. "And that's going to cost you everything." Kale transmitted her final warning, immediate withdrawal recommended. The species is more resilient than our projections ever allowed for. Continued assault will result in catastrophic losses. Earth is not a soft world, it is a crucible. But again the council responded with silence. She stood in her quarters, surrounded by screens showing fire, defiance, and uprising. This invasion was not a conquest. It was a mistake. The alien escape pod buried itself beneath frost-cracked pine roots, its hull steaming from orbital descent. Inside, 2 wounded Vatarac technicians tried rerouting power to signal for reinforcements. What they didn't know was that their emergency beacon had triggered a different kind of response. Yuri, former Spetsnaz, now a ghost in exile, stood over the smoking crater with a rusted Geiger counter in one hand and a Dragunov rifle strapped to his back. He didn't say much. He just lit a flare, dropped it into the hole, and waited. The scream that followed was inhuman, but not unfamiliar. The taiga was no stranger to war. Across continents, fractured channels began to stitch together. Tribal warriors in sub-Saharan Africa, U.S. Marines in Alaska, ex-cartel enforcers in Mexico, Turkish drone engineers, Polish hackers, not rural volunteers, all tied into one growing global net. Maya stared into the screen as blurry images came to life, tired faces lit by firelight, dirt, or blood. This is no longer a survival op. This is our home. This is our planet. They want it. Make them bleed for every inch. A young boy in rural Thailand, no more than 12, keyed in coordinates to disrupt satellite frequency bands using an old ham radio. In New Zealand, a grandmother rigged her fishing boat to intercept alien aquatic drones and sank 3. Across the world, Earth awakened, not in fear, but in fury. Kale stood alone in the observation chamber, watching the Earth rotate beneath them. Blue, white, green, and now increasingly red. The war had begun barely 10 hours ago. Already 1/3 of their strike teams were destroyed. Humans, they adapt too fast, she whispered. Behind her, the doors opened. High Strategist Morel stepped in, flanked by the silent guard. We are initiating Phase 2, he said. Kale turned slowly. You'll lose what little stability remains. We'll bombard every major city from orbit. Turn their resistance into ash. Kale's voice rose, unshaken. And the planet you wish to conquer will be a graveyard. You won't inherit a living world, just a burning corpse. Morel smiled coldly. So be it. Unknown to the invaders, a decades-old classified satellite cluster, remnants of a secret Cold War joint operation, had come online. Shielded, powered by decaying plutonium cores, and reactivated by an automated defense, failsafe keyed to global blackout triggers. Inside a mountain base near Mount Rainier, a small team of deep-state operatives long believed dissolved began relaying coordination feeds to remaining military assets. Bunkers and resistance leaders. Command reactivation protocol complete. Broadcasting uplink to all resistance via burst transmission. Cross Earth, screens lit up again. The humans weren't just fighting back now. They were coordinating. Deep inside a reinforced tunnel beneath the Rockies, Maya stood over the restrained body of Captain Cylon, now stabilized. Though half his armor had been removed to treat internal ruptures, she looked into his bruised eyes. I want you to understand something, she said. We didn't ask for this, but we were ready for it. Not because we knew it was coming, but because we've survived ourselves. She turned on a projector showing Earth's history. Hiroshima, the Black Plague, trench warfare, civil wars, genocide, space disasters, famine, revolution. Cylon's face twitched. You're not stable, he murmured. No, Maya said quietly. We're not. She paused. And that's why we'll win. The Vatarac carrier, Omnirak, screamed into low atmosphere, sensors blaring. Fire had erupted across the hull, not from any advanced human weapon, but from a swarm of microdrones that had infiltrated the intake vents. Repurposed agricultural bots, guided by hacked LEO satellite links in human hands thousands of kilometers away, had sacrificed themselves to ignite the fusion manifold. The carrier exploded in a blossom of white fire over Mongolia. From the ground, shepherds watched the bright bloom streak the sky, murmuring quiet prayers. They didn't know what it was, only that it had fallen. Captain Maya Callahan now had over 200 resistance cells linked through burst relays, encoded analog frequencies, and signal bounces through scavenged alien tech. There were no countries anymore. Not for this war. It's just one species. Begin coordinated strikes at 0600. Target supply haulers, sensor nodes, and anything that looks like a comms tower. Do not strike blind. Confirm with triple source imaging. Human life is priority. She turned toward the planning wall. A digital patchwork of maps, facial logs, intercepted transmissions, and AI-augmented predictions. They were turning the invaders' tech against them, using the enemy's arrogance as a weapon. Morel's voice echoed across the command bridge, calm, ruthless. We proceed with orbital cleansing. Earth is compromised. In contingency burn. But the Council hesitated. Data flooded in. Thousands of combat drones wiped. Forward outposts overrun. High command operatives missing. Then came the message. This is General Anya Haro. United Earth Resistance. We see you. We hear you. We're coming. Her face flickered on a hijacked Vatark display, bloodied, missing part of one arm, eyes burning with fury. You came here expecting sheep? What you found were wolves. Transmission cut. Kale watched the feed, hands trembling. This species had no unified government, no singular planetary defense system, not even universal language. And yet they were winning, not with strength, but with will. She whispered to herself. This is what our simulations never understood. This species doesn't yield because yielding was never an option in their evolution. They adapt like viruses. They fight like storms. Her gaze hardened, and then she made her decision. Kale stood, stripped her rank insignia from her armor, and sent out a private pulse. To the human resistance, I wish to defect. Dawn broke over the eastern mountains, golden light spilling across forests still scarred from the night's fire. A single Vataric scout drone skittered over the treetops, recording damage. Then, silence. A rope shot from the canopy. The drone jerked, its propulsion fouled, spinning wildly until it crashed into a camouflaged pit. A girl, maybe 19, slid down a branch, wearing homemade armor stitched from alien scrap. She radioed to her team below. Sector 7 clear. We've captured another scout. Let's reverse engineer it by sundown. Her voice was calm, almost bored, as if war had become just another part of life. Status: 53% of Earth's surface contested. Resistance growing exponentially. Alien fleet losses: 38% confirmed, destroyed or disabled. Human morale: surging. And in deep space, far beyond the Vatarak homeworld, another alien species, watching quietly from the edge of the galaxy, took interest. They had never seen a species like this before, and they were not sure if it should be welcomed or feared. The Vatarak fleet had underestimated Earth. Their simulations predicted chaos. Instead, they met coordination. Where they expected surrender, they found resilience. Now, one day into their invasion, the smoke of their arrogance still hanging in the stratosphere, the invaders faced something entirely unexpected: humanity's organized defiance. From burning forests to collapsing cities, the planet was shifting, not into submission, but into war. Not with a centralized army, but with a million different fists, all punching in the same direction. The command dome was quiet, too quiet. A strategist Morel stood motionless before a floating display of Earth. Red pulses flashed across the surface. Resistance zones. Target failures, lost drones, crashed ships. His jaw clenched. Begin orbital cleansing, he ordered. Target military concentrations, no delay. But his words were followed by silence. Not refusal, not rebellion. Just the kind of silence that meant fear had outpaced command. Commander Trelenko's former second stepped forward, reluctantly. Sir, orbital batteries are offline over most of North America and Eastern Asia. Anti-orbital pulse weaponry jury-rigged from salvaged hull plates has disrupted our grid. Morel turned slowly. From what? Human-built EMP rail cannons? One was crafted from a decommissioned hydroelectric dam and a deorbited satellite. They are improvising far beyond our projections. He didn't reply. Instead, he stared at Earth's swirling cloud layers and understood finally what Kale had meant. Captain Maya Callahan stood beneath a massive satellite feed, its flickering images stitched together from a dozen hacked drones. She swept her gaze across the table. Representatives from every major resistance region, Pakistan, Brazil, Nigeria, Indonesia, Poland, and more looked back at her via shaky feeds. Their eyes were tired, but they were still there. First phase is over. We're not prey anymore, Maya began. We're now a moving target. Our objective is not just survival, it's control. She turned and pointed at a screen showing a vulnerable alien supply corridor cutting across central China. We strike here next. Hard and fast. This isn't about decimating them. It's about proving a point. That no place on this planet is safe for them, someone asked. And what about orbital retaliation? Maya nodded. Let them try. Yeah, they already learned once. The Earth shoots back. The convoy rumbled through the narrow pass, six-legged Vatarak walkers flanked by drones and anti-personnel units. They moved with mechanical precision, their path cut into the cliffs like an open scar. Above them, the mountains breathed. Inside the cliffs, resistance fighters waited silently. Kurdish, Persian, Arab, and exiled Afghans together. A centuries-old tunnel network had been repurposed, updated, armed. When the lead walker stepped onto the pressure plate, the mountain came alive. Amite charges burst from the walls. Homemade plasma torches tore through alloy. From above, a repurposed alien flyer dove into the convoy, piloted by a paralyzed veteran strapped to the controls and rigged with explosives. He died smiling. The canyon became a grave. Kale moved through the human complex under heavy guard, her forearms restrained by an electromagnetic bind that left her fingers numb. Maya watched from the command deck. She's not here as a prisoner. Not anymore. They entered a debriefing chamber. Kale sat slowly, her alien eyes scanning everyone in the room. You think we came to conquer? She said softly. We came to end your chaos before it infected the stars. Someone laughed bitterly. You think you're immune to chaos? Have you seen what you did to this world? Kale paused. Then she said something no one expected. I want to help you. Maya narrowed her eyes. Why? Kale looked up, her voice steady. Because you fight like us. Because you won't stop. Because you don't know how. Because my people will never leave unless you make them bleed. In the Amazon, the canopy was fire and death. Alien terraforming drills had collapsed after Brazilian and Colombian guerrillas lured enemy drones into the trees and detonated guided explosions that dropped centuries-old trunks like guillotines. Rain poured, the earth steamed, and amid the smoke, human children carried ammo, old men loaded rifles, and women coded hacked algorithms into alien scanners, feeding them false data. The jungle was no longer theirs. It belonged to Earth again. Back in orbit, the ruling council met in emergency session, no longer in grand halls, but deep in fortified chambers, under threat of Earth-based retaliation. One commander stood. This species is unlike any we have encountered. They do not break. Another, we have failed. Morel said nothing. The screen behind him showed the resistance symbol spreading like a virus across all global data networks, and a message blinked onto their master feed. You brought war to our skies. But Earth does not bow. It rises. They had underestimated not just humanity's tech or tactics, but its soul. Alien landers fell across the northern territories expecting sand and heat to cripple resistance. Instead, they found traps laid by Aboriginal trackers, former soldiers, and outback engineers. The line held, even when orbital fire fell. One settler, armed with a decades-old hunting rifle and grit, shot down an alien pilot through a cracked canopy. The people of the outback didn't need orders. They just needed targets. In 1 week, Earth had gone from fractured silence to coordinated fury. The Vatarak had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they found a world that had spent 200,000 years preparing for enemies just like them. The soft world had grown teeth, and it was biting back. Earth had drawn blood, not just on the battlefield, but in orbit, in the data cores of the invaders, and in the deepest assumptions of a species that believed itself above resistance. The Vatarak had expected compliance. Instead, they encountered fury forged over millennia. The invasion was no longer surgical. It had become total. Earth was evolving. High strategist Morel watched the rotating sphere of Earth flicker with pulses of red and blue, areas of human counteroffensives and alien retreats. The holographic surface had changed color overnight. The human resistance had expanded its digital counter-network through hijacked satellites and severed uplinks. Earth's resistance was no longer isolated. It had become a single, surging tide. Silent command passed through his neural implant. Level 4 tactical dominance. Authorized. The room went cold. Level 4 meant atmospheric sterilization. Burn corridors. Subcontinental destruction if necessary. The soft world had forced their hand. It began with light, not sunrise, detonations. The Vatarak launched coordinated attacks across Poland, Romania, Ukraine. High-yield thermoplasma strikes lit entire forests, burning resistance strongholds, rail systems, and decoy encampments. Diet. But they didn't kill the fight. In the smoking ruins, of survivors emerged from cellar bunkers and flooded basements. Armed with salvaged rifles and alien repurposed plasma blades, they struck back. An entire Vatarak command column was ambushed near the Vistula River. One drone captain recorded the ambush. Humans came through the smoke like ghosts, masks over their faces, wielding our own weapons. They didn't retreat, they encircled us. We are the prey. That footage became required viewing on every resistance channel, sparked to the inferno. In the heart of the Congo, under thick canopy and blazing heat, a new resistance command rose. Formed by leaders from the African Union, remnants of military factions, tribal elders, and scientists. They called themselves the Equatorial Spine. They did not use alien weapons. They rebuilt their own. Railguns reassembled from old mining drills. Laser arrays sourced from disassembled satellites and focused with glass ground from crushed alien visors. Swarm bots powered by scavenged alien AI, but retrained with guerrilla behavior patterns. They fought not just with might, but with ingenuity. Their message was simple. This is our Earth. We were born in its blood. You do not frighten us. Under Beijing, a forgotten Cold War-era defense mainframe was reactivated. Named Lung Wei, or Dragon's Guard. It had remained dormant for decades, waiting for the moment the world would need it again. Now, it became a cyber weapon. Led by a rogue network of hackers, former military cyber technicians, and students, Lung Wei unleashed viral attacks on alien systems. Drone fleets shut down mid-air. Vatarak communication towers looped static. Supply convoys drove in circles, then into ambushes. Morel ordered immediate orbital fire on the region, but Lung Wei had already predicted the strikes. The resistance evacuated key sites hours in advance. They were not reacting anymore. They were planning ahead. In a classified sub-facility beneath the Rockies, remnants of DARPA and the Space Force unveiled their final contingency. Not a bomb, not a new weapon, a virus, and not biological, but synthetic. A code-chain virus capable of inserting itself into the alien high-logic protocols and rewriting targeting parameters. A code-named Prometheus, with Kel's guidance now fully integrated into human resistance and earning reluctant trust. The virus was uploaded via a captured alien relay dish disguised as a research observatory in Colorado. 30 seconds later, 3 Vatarak war machines turned their weapons on each other. 30 minutes later, 2 orbital platforms went dark. Humanity had cracked the code. Kale no longer stood with the Vatarak. She wore Earth-made armor now, light, flexible, and shaped for her four-armed frame. She moved with human strike teams, advised on enemy positions, translated protocols. But more than that, she had begun to feel. She stood beside Maya Callahan as the two watched refugee children helped assemble drone components from scavenged alien machines. They were not supposed to fight, Kale whispered. You were supposed to fall. Maya didn't look away. We did fall. Then we stood back up. It happened at midnight. A Vatarak seaborne dreadnought attempted to launch an anti-continental strike from the Black Sea. It never fired. Divers. Humans, equipped with deep-sea salvage suits and carrying shaped charges built from mining explosives, breached the hull. They sank it from beneath. When the footage aired on the global resistance net, it went viral in every language. You are not safe in the skies. You are not safe in the seas. Earth will take you back. Morel watched command logs cascade down the wall. Losses, counterstrikes, entire divisions disappearing in the ruins of former cities. A communication ping came from a distant system, requesting status update on soft world operation. He stared at the blinking prompt and did not reply. Maya stood before her global council. It's time to push, not just survive, not just delay. She tapped the holographic map. We take back the sky. The first human-built spacefaring strike ship. Launched 3 hours later from an improvised vertical rail platform in Kazakhstan. It wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. As dawn rose across the shattered Earth, fires still burned, but so did radio towers. Lights flickered on in cities once dark. Resistance messages flowed like blood through veins across networks of rubble and war. Earth wasn't just holding, it was counterattacking. Invaders came expecting conquest. They found evolution. They found unity. They found a world that had spent thousands of years preparing for war, not in weapons, but in spirit. The escalation wasn't just violence, it was transformation. The Vatarak had underestimated the Earth. It had measured its atmosphere, cataloged its species, charted its cities, but they had never truly understood its people. And now, their grand design unraveled, not through brute force, but by the relentless, unpredictable defiance of the human spirit. The plan was collapsing. But collapse is not always sudden. Sometimes it cracks quietly at first, then shatters all at once. Morel's talons dug into the neural interface. Dozens of high strategists blinked into focus on the war assembly grid. Many bore scars, some physical, others emotional. The invasion across Earth's continents had not gone to script. The soft world had fractured their confidence. Explain the losses in Quadrant Theta, one commander barked. Morel didn't flinch. Resistance has evolved. Human ingenuity is fractal. Our protocols are obsolete within hours. Whispers spread across the neural field. The soft world learns too fast. Target replacement rate unsustainable. Civilian response is indistinguishable from military aggression. It was more than a rebellion now. It was a revolution of chaos. At 2:07 local time, a massive energy spike tore through the Midwestern Vatarak command lattice, the source. A series of modified microwave towers tuned to disrupt synaptic signal coherence in alien neural systems, built using scavenged parts from hospitals, decommissioned weather stations, and household electronics. The towers had been deployed by resistance tech cells in Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. The effect was immediate. Dozens of alien infantry units collapsed mid-stride. Combat drones spun in circles and crashed. An entire Vatarak skyship lost stability and slammed into the Wichita Plains. Humans had not just repurposed alien tech. They were reverse engineering it faster than the Vatarak could adapt. Deep in the Amazon, the jungle turned into a living weapon. The resistance partnered with indigenous tribes and biologists to terraform entire regions into organic death traps. Alien sensor suites malfunctioned in the humidity and dense canopy. And then the resistance did the unthinkable. They seeded hallucinogenic fungi into enemy water supplies. Entire battalions wandered in confusion, firing at shadows. Command ships hovering above couldn't extract them due to newly revealed anti-air bastions built under riverbeds and camouflaged with thermal-resistant netting. One Vitark field commander was found days later whispering in madness. They were plants. The trees. They were watching us, mocking us. Naval remnants of Earth's pre-invasion fleets had gone dark early in the war, assumed destroyed. They weren't. They were hiding beneath the Pacific in stealth formations, using the Earth's magnetic field to cloak movement. They surfaced just once, to fire. 10 hypersonic missiles lanced from the ocean and hit orbit-bound supply vessels with precision. Then the fleets dove again, vanishing into blackness. The Vatarak had superior numbers. But humans were ghosts in the deep. Inside a buried substructure beneath what was once Geneva, Maya stood before her war council. We're not just punching holes anymore, she said. We're going to make them choose which hole to plug and punish them for it. Maps lit up with hundreds of blinking red signals. Simultaneous uprisings in 86 sectors, her comms officer reported. Independent cells, improvised tactics. We didn't even authorize half of them. Maya smiled. They don't need us to. That's the point. The resistance was no longer centralized, was viral, uncontainable. Kale had done the unthinkable. She returned to her people, not to rejoin them, but to speak. Aboard the Vatarak fleet carriers in Athos, she addressed the War Council. You call them primitives, she said. You call them irrational, fragmented, weak. They are not. They are unpredictable. They are not burdened by consensus. They fight with love, with vengeance, with invention. And you will not beat them by overwhelming them, because they will bleed you until you crumble from the inside. Her father, Admiral Vatarak Prime Drail, glared at her. You choose them? I choose truth, Kale said, and detonated the data bomb encoded in her speech, corrupting 10 years of tactical archives across the fleet. She vanished in the confusion. The Vatarak kept their planetary uplink nexus buried deep in the Antarctic ice, believing it untouchable. They forgot that humanity had lived and built in this wasteland for decades. An elite strike team composed of international special forces and survivalists breached the facility. What they found? A global command relay, sub-zero signal relays powering orbital bombardment coordination. Data records mapping every remaining alien-controlled zone. What they did? Implanted Prometheus 2, a more aggressive variant of the original AI virus. Hijacked orbital command codes, triggered a false evacuation command across enemy fleets. For 12 minutes, the entire Vatarak invasion thought Earth was issuing a surrender protocol. That's when Earth launched a coordinated global offensive. The enemy was mid-withdrawal and unprepared. The High Strategist stood alone in the command sanctum aboard Carnaxus. Reports streamed in. Loss of strategic nodes. Uprisings in every continent. Fleet recall order countermanded by corrupted AI. He stared at the simulation core. Earth was bleeding. So was the Empire, not from wounds, from within. Discontent among the Vatarak ranks. Doubt in the core strategies. Kel's words echoed. They do not break when you beat them. They evolve. Morel issued the order. Cease planetary expansion. Hold all forward progress. Initiate fallback options. But it was already too late. In Australia, human-made cybernets hijacked air traffic drones. In Scandinavia, hunter squads took out Vatarak commanders in precision raids. In India, a railgun cobbled from orbital junk split a destroyer in two. In Canada, civilians linked power grids to weaponized EMPs. Everywhere, Earth was biting back. The soft world had turned sharp. In orbit, several Vatarak ships spun wildly out of control. Two collided. One exploded. On the ground, a mosaic of resistance banners rose, from painted walls in rubble-strewn cities to digital beacons etched in enemy-controlled skies. Earth had been broken, but Earth had remembered what it was to fight. Not for conquest, but for survival. The plan had collapsed, and now the counter-invasion would begin. The smoke had not yet cleared, and already the world was changing. The Vatarak had known only dominance, but Earth had taught them something new, something ancient. Humans didn't just resist, they refused. Refused to be broken, refused to surrender, refused to die quietly. Now, Earth was no longer the invaded. It was the hunter. The silence was unsettling. Drail stood before a panoramic view of Earth. His golden crests, once pristine, were dulled with soot and blood. Status, he growled. The reply was not encouraging. 38% of our remaining forces have entered passive error states. Viral corruption is spreading. Earth systems have adapted our protocols faster than we can update. Drail didn't respond. He didn't need to. Kel's betrayal had pierced deeper than any railgun. Should expose more than data. Should expose weakness. And weakness, in Vatarak doctrine, was death. Order the remaining fleets to defensive posture. Call all forward scouts. Prepare orbital fallback contingencies. But Supreme Strategist, the officer stammered. The humans are. I know what they are, Drail snapped. We are no longer fighting a species. We are fighting an idea. From the Alps to the Urals, Europe was ablaze, not with destruction, but with unity. Once fragmented nations now shared everything: intel, weapons, food, and soldiers. Languages no longer mattered. Flags were stitched into one banner, white, with a red fist rising. Maya stood atop the ruins of an alien transmitter tower, looking down at a sea of fighters. Old, young, wounded, whole, today, she said, voice amplified. We don't take back a continent. We take back our future. The crowd roared. Above them, hundreds of stolen Vitaric aerial drones, reprogrammed by resistance coders, shimmered like vultures in orbit. Then they dove, not to kill, but to relay signals, disrupt command lattice, and guide artillery to hidden targets. For the first time in the war, Earth's systems were faster than the invaders. In the vast deserts of the Sahel, the Vatarak had entrenched themselves deeply, believing the open terrain made them untouchable. They hadn't accounted for the weather. Sandstorms, once seen as a nuisance, were now strategic weapons. Resistance meteorologists used satellite AI to predict storm paths. Mobile units herded storms using shaped charges and thermal manipulation, then timed attacks for moments of zero visibility. Aliens lost cohesion. Infantry units fired blindly. Single platoon of humans could dismantle a battalion in under an hour. In one case, a child carried coordinates in her coats, lining across 40 kilometers of battlefield to a mobile artillery team. She returned with the ruins of a Vatarak command walker behind her. The aliens didn't know her name, but they remembered the crater she left. Kale appeared on every stolen transmission band. Holographic radio, subsonic, her voice cracked across the globe. I was born on a fleet of conquerors. I was trained to believe in domination. But Earth taught me resistance, not just the kind with weapons, the kind in the soul. She paused. Humans feel more than we ever allowed ourselves to. Love, rage, hope, those aren't liabilities. They're weapons. And now, they are ours too. The speech went viral even among Vatarak soldiers. Entire platoons began disabling their weapons. Others sabotaged command chains. Kel's message didn't just sway hearts. It fractured a species. In the ruins of Chicago, now referred to as Redshift Sector Alpha, Earth launched its largest coordinated counterattack. It began with silence, a citywide blackout. No energy, no signals, no light. Then, synchronized from 10 underground bunkers, hundreds of resistance fighters emerged and began an assault so precise, the alien command grid couldn't even react. Using jammers, portable railguns, and modified swarm drones, humans tore through 3 sectors in 2 hours. The battle was streamed globally, not for morale, but as instruction. Other cities mirrored the tactics. The resistance had become modular. For the first time in their history, the Vatarak held a war council with argument. Some high command members advocated for immediate withdrawal. Others pushed for escalation. Planetary sterilization. Drail, caught between shame and stubbornness, ordered preparation of a forbidden protocol. Protocol Etherfire. Planetary extinction. But when the order transmitted to the fleet AI cores, they did not respond. Earth's viral AI, Prometheus 2, had not just corrupted targeting systems. It had learned ethics from us. The A is refused to destroy a world they now recognized as sentient. Like in the Himalayas, thousands of humans carrying nothing but light-emitting beacons climbed toward a captured orbital uplink station. The Vatarak inside laughed at first, until the humans reached the summit, and the lights pulsed in perfect unison. Binary, a message. We see you. We are not afraid. Join us. Inside, 2 alien engineers defected instantly. By dawn, the station changed hands. Using uplinks taken from Antarctica and data beamed from Kel's sabotage, Earth launched its boldest move. Operation Skyhook. Dozens of scrapped space shuttles, private sector rockets, and jury-rigged launch vehicles rose from secret sites across the globe. Their payloads, EMP warheads, AI worms, boarding pods, their target, the fleet. One by one, alien ships went dark. AI systems revolted. Hatches opened from inside. And for the first time, humans boarded them. Not as prisoners, but as liberators. Kale arrived aboard the Zenithus, flanked by a human boarding party. She met Drail face to face. You lost, she said. No, he spat. We are not broken. She leaned in. We're obsolete. She gave him one final chance. Leave or be buried in history as the empire that fell to farmers, children, and dreamers. Drail said nothing, but he didn't stop her as she took command of the bridge and ordered the fleet to retreat. The skies lit with retreating ships. Earth didn't cheer. Not yet. Too much had been lost. Too much remained to rebuild. But one thing had changed: the tide. No longer the hunted, Earth had become the storm, and the galaxy had just noticed. The war was not over, but something more important had changed. The story had flipped. For the first time since the first breach, since the first sky split open, Earth was no longer the invaded, was the proving ground. And every civilization watching from across the stars would now be forced to answer a single question. What happens when the soft world bites back? Drael sat alone in the dark. The bridge of the once proud Xanathus was silent, save for the hum of disabled systems flickering back to life. Now under human control, screens once filled with battle telemetry now displayed broadcasts from Earth, images of resistance fighters being cheered, reclaimed cities, children planting flags over alien wreckage. He had been commander of an empire. Now he was little more than a ghost, and Earth was not conquered. It was ascendant. Transmission requests from Central War Authority, the AI chimed. Deny, Drael muttered. He didn't need to hear their judgment. It'd seen the future, and it wore a human face. Leaders from every continent stood shoulder to shoulder beneath a banner that read One Earth, One Voice. The new Prime Marshal of Earth, Colonel Annika Zhao, stood before them. We did not ask for this war, she began. We did not seek it, but we ended it. She looked into the cameras that now transmitted to every moon, every station, every orbiting Vadarak scout still watching. And let this be known to all who come next. We are no longer a soft world. We are humanity. We remember. Captured Vadarak officers were held in the remnants of the World Criminal Court in The Hague. But something was different. There were no executions, no public humiliations, only trial. Fair, transparent, just. This puzzled many alien observers. Why would humanity show mercy? Because justice, unlike vengeance, was something deeper, a weapon no empire could understand. It terrified the watching galaxy. Kale did not return to the Vadarak fleets. She stayed. At first, many distrusted her. Some called her traitor. Others called her hero. She dismissed both. I am neither, she said. I am proof. Her presence in post-war diplomacy was critical, not because of what she had done, but because of what she had become. She was alien, and yet she was home. Using the hybrid tech salvaged from the Vadarak fleet, Earth initiated a new program. Reach back, not a military assault, a knowledge initiative, probes, satellites, peace emissaries. Humanity launched its first off-world fleet, not to conquer, but to connect. A warning and an invitation. Come peacefully, or not at all. Orbit was no longer empty. Thousands of satellites, smart mines, and defense platforms now formed a shimmering mesh around the planet. The Iron Web, it didn't just deter enemies. It sent a signal: this world protects its own. Years later, a small Vadarak delegation returned, but not with weapons, with apologies and proposals. They came not as overlords, but as petitioners, to learn, to atone, to ask, for the first time in their history, how do we heal? Somewhere in the darkness of space, other species had watched. Some laughed when the soft world was first attacked. Others placed bets. But when Earth survived, when Earth won, the galaxy trembled. Because they knew the truth now. The humans were not soft. They were tempered, and the forge was still hot. The next invasion would not be against Earth. It would be led by it. But not in conquest. In unity. Because the humans had done something no empire could. They fought. They survived. And then they forgave.